folks, Scott here with the My Monthly Hero October 2018 card kit. This is a Christmas kit. We are getting into the Christmas season. Let's see what excitement Hero Arts has in store for us this month. The stamps and dies come wrapped in this nice, I call that a dark teal ribbon, is wrapped around our stamps and dies. Big Christmas stamp set featuring a very large tree. We've got a stack of animals who looks like they're putting ornaments on a tree, all sorts of ornaments, a scarf at the top of the tree, a number of sentiments, but not a ton of them. We've got a bench, a lamp post, 4 skaters, 1 sledder, and an assortment of animals. Let's get this little raccoon here all wrapped up in lights. Very, very cute. Lovely. They even have a nice little skating pond down here. Lots of coloring opportunities with this stamp set. And of course, we get 14 coordinating frame cuts and 1 paper layering tree die with frame. So these are all of our frame cuts. Looks like it'll cut out all of the kids and deer and benches and lamp post. And this is that paper layering tree with a frame. So it'll cut the tree out. It'll also cut all of these branches on the tree. I think that's the first kind of die that I own like that as well. We also get extras, and we get 6 sheets of this really nice glitter paper. This is so smooth. Of course, nothing is coming off. These are 5.5 by 8.5 inch, so they're half sheets. So we get 2 silvers, 2 sea glass, and 2 twilight. Those are beautiful, beautiful glitter paper. So smooth, nice and thick. Then we also get some iridescent star embellishments. These are always fun. And this little package, a 1/2 ounce of iridescent ink. I don't know if we're supposed to put that in a spray bottle or just paint with that. So let's see what some ice skating kids and a nice big Christmas tree will inspire us to create this month. Now, it seems obvious to me that this stamp set is all about creating scenes on our card. Definitely a scene builder stamp set. So, though I'm not extremely well versed in scenes on cards, that's what we're going to be working on with this set of cards. So here's my card bases, mostly white. We've got a little glitter, a little blue, a little craft. Let's see what this kit inspired from me. Now, like I said, it's all about creating scenes. This is on a blue card base. This is my first card. I had recently seen the Jennifer Maguire Double Z Fold video that gave me the idea that we could possibly make a really big scene for our cards this month. So on a blue card base, we've got what appears to be fairly simple Winter Wishes, features that tree and the little fawn there, but this opens up into quite a big scene. This is almost exactly like Jennifer Maguire's cards. On the scene surface, which would be the inside of the card, Jennifer gives us 3¼ by 10 inches dimension. 3¼ by 10 inches of a dimension. Now, I wanted a little more space for my scene, so I increased that by a 1/2 inch. So this inner stamped and colored piece is actually 3¾ inch by 10½ inches. Now that ultimately leaves us just a 1/4 inch border all the way around that card. It's scored in exactly the same place. It's all assembled in the exact same way that Jennifer Maguire does hers. It's just a little bit bigger on the scene part. I really like this. I did cut this from a piece of my Bristol Smooth cardstock. I used my Tim Holtz ink blending brushes and some Broken China Distress Oxide ink to do a very light background and also to lay down my hills. Used Post-it tape to mask the hills off. lightly colored the whole background because I wanted to stamp on top of it and color on top of it. I stamped the tree with Stampin' Up! Old Olive ink, and I stamped the pond with Hero Arts Summer Sky ink, and everything else I stamped with Versamark Onyx black ink. I colored everything with my Zig Clean Color markers. I did stamp the Winter Wishes sentiment from the stamp set in Hero Arts soft granite ink, and I stamped these three little distant birds. That's a stamp from Simon Says Stamp June of 2017 card kit, I believe. Stamped those both with the soft granite ink. I did cut the card base exactly like Jennifer does and scored it. I did take the snow stamps from the stamp set and stamp those all around the edges using the Hero Arts Unicorn white ink. That's a nice background. I did use my little disposable micro applicators and some of that soft granite ink to do some of the snow in the sky, some of the snow dots in the sky. I did add some white gel pen snow as well. I tried to make this as one layer as possible, but if you notice, this fawn is actually cut, fussy cut and glued in. I misstamped this fawn when I was stamping this card. Oh, I was so irritated, but I didn't want to go back and start over, so I just stamped it again, fussy cut it out, and then you can actually see I cut into the hillside here to slip the fawn's legs into the snow there. A little bit of touching with the micro applicator and some of the broken china ink around the base of those. That adds a lot of texture, a lot of life to this scene. A little bit of gel pen snow on the bench and on the lamppost, and of course on the tree. What a great tree stamp. Incredibly detailed. You can actually see the sky through most parts of that tree. This is my big scene I created for my first card, following along with Jennifer McGuire's Z-Fold card instructions. This is certainly jumping in with both feet as far as creating scenes with this card kit. Card number 1, Winter Wishes. Now, I did think that there were some what I would call filler stamps in this stamp set. Stamps that I didn't think really went with the whole theme. We've got a mistletoe over here. You know, I really want to try and use every stamp in a stamp set. So I decided for my second card to focus on that mistletoe stamp. And this is this is an old David Tutera card base. Nice glitter, a little pinkish, but if you don't use them, you're going to keep them forever. And here we go with a Merry Christmas card. Our first pun already, second card. That is that mistletoe stamp. Now, I stamped that with Onyx Black ink on some Bristol Smooth cardstock, colored that with my Zig Clean Color markers. I did go to my silhouette portrait to create this sentiment, to print and cut it out. I love this Merry Christmas. That's in my favorite, of course, Brady Bunch font. I did print that and cut that out on my silhouette 4 times and glued those all together to make a nice little chunky sentiment here. I did, of course, mount that to the card front with some foam squares. I did cut 2 more blanks of this die. Now, I did, throughout this entire 10 card kit, I did once again cut little die cut templates. So if you stamp an image and color it, use your little die cut template to line up the die. It really makes your first time die cutting something really accurate. I think I got this tip from Gina K. I did use die cut templates on almost every die cut I did in this kit. And then we've got this little silver frame. I recently got suckered into the Alta new release and this Fine Frames cover die. I thought on top of this glitter cardstock, it was especially effective. Glitter on glitter always works. Merry Christmas, fairly simple card, but I think it works perfectly, and it certainly highlights that little mistletoe stamp. Okay, so we created a scene with masking and all one layer scene on this first card. Let's create another scene with this scene builder set on a white card base. Let's stamp and die cut everything this time. It certainly saves on having to cut masks. So this is my third card, another scene card featuring all the animals in the stamp set. I did stamp everything with Onyx black ink, stamped it on Bristol Smooth cardstock, colored it with my Zig Clean Color markers, die cut everything using die cut templates, and mounted everything to this card base using foam squares. Now this card base, I've been watching Sandy Allnock quite a bit on YouTube lately. She's a great artist and she does terrific alcohol marker backgrounds. And I wanted to go in and try and see what I could do with a very faint background with my alcohol markers. So I created this little tree line. This is actually on Copic friendly cardstocks. I sketched in the trees with my Spectrum Noir alcohol markers, sketched in the edge of the snow there. I did reach for my brushes and ink to give a little broken china sky up in the top. I like that for a soft, suggestive background. It was quite fun to do instead of just ink blending a whole background. I will experiment more with kind of drawing my own backgrounds. I think it worked out very nicely here. It's very soft, but you can see it and you can tell what it is. So I gave everybody ornaments for this card. The mouse has an ornament in his hand. Even the fawn has an ornament in her mouth. The birds are carrying the star to the top of the tree. A really, really nice scene. I kind of think this stamp set was created just for making a card like this. I did take my Sakura Stardust glitter pen and put little glitter highlights on all of those ornaments. Those are all fussy cut. We didn't get ornament dies in this kit. I did stamp a sentiment on the inside. This is stamped with oxide walnut stain ink. I did add the sending to the happy tidings, so it is a sending happy tidings on the inside. That's another sentiment from the stamp set. A really nice alcohol marker background, die cut scene. I did say I was subscribing to the Hero Arts kit so I could do some work on my backgrounds. I think this is the first alcohol marker background that I've done on a card. Now, of course, you give me a stamp set that indicates movement. I mean, all of these kids are either skating or sledding. You indicate some movement to me, and I'm going to want to try and make those stamps move. So for my fourth card here, this seems like an obvious choice to me. And we get have a nice day. Good pun. With a spinner card, we've got one of the little skater girls that spins when you open the card. Now, I chose this skater because she had the longest line going from the longest straight line going from her skate up to the top of her head. Now, I stamped her twice and then took that second stamp and turned it over and traced it on the back to get the backside of this girl. Now you can tell a difference when she's spinning around. You really can't tell, but that's an easy way to make a reverse stamp is just trace it on a light board, trace it on a window, makes a perfect reverse stamp. Of course, you've got the stamp on the other side, so you can still die cut it and the pieces will match up perfectly. I did, of course, create a die-cut stencil for this. I needed both of these ladies to be die-cut extremely accurately to each other. This is great fun. I used invisible thread, 2 rows of invisible thread up through her center. I did use my score tape for all of these connections, and it works really well. Give her a few winds, and she just spins right around. It's been a long time since I did a spinner card, and they are really so much fun. I, of course, went to my silhouette profile to create this sentiment. Have a nice day. A great pun. I created that again using my Brady Bunch remastered font I print and cut that with my silhouette. I cut 3 copies of that and glued them all together for a little bit of thickness to that. I did use foam tape to attach that to our glitter card front. I actually cut this card front with a Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle die. Of course, I only use a couple of them this month. But I cut that from the white glitter silk cardstock. This is a Coordinations glitter silk, a white cardstock. Really nice, kind of a purpley tone to it. I then took one of my scalloped circle dies and one of my circle dies, and I cut this little frame for the circle in my card with the green glitter paper from our kit this month. A nice little frame around that. That matches her skirt. Of course, she's stamped in onyx black ink on Bristol Smooth cardstock, colored with my Zig Clean Color markers. Have a nice day. A great little spinner card. Let's send her on one more trip. A great pun and a great interactive card. There she goes. So stamps in action are one thing, but you give me any of these multiple very, very small stamps, like the ornaments in this stamp set, and I'm going to grab my homemade wreath builder template and see if I can come up with a wreath using all of these small little stamps. So we've got another wreath on our 5th card here, plain white card base. And this is our Merry Christmas card, using all of the ornaments in what I think is a really nice, interesting wreath. Now, I did practice this a couple of times before I committed it to my card. I think this was the first one that I did, and I thought that worked pretty well. And then I practiced it a couple of times, and then I came up with this, and I was going to color all of the ornaments and just do the solid ornaments in that Delicata metallic ink. Then I thought, let's do them all in the metallic ink. I've got a whole bunch of colors of that Delicata metallic ink. I've got one of those 4 packs, and then I also have a small one of rose gold. So these are my 5 colors I used to stamp this wreath. I thought it came out really nice. Pretty straightforward. I did take one of my smallest stitch circle dies to cut a hole in the center of the wreath. I thought that lent itself to feeling a little bit more like a wreath and not just a ball of ornaments. I, of course, cut that out with a stitched rectangle die, matted that on a piece of silver cardstock. I believe that's the Craft Core Tim Holtz silver cardstock. A really nice mat. This is a bow from the blue ribbon from the kit. I stamped and embossed the Merry Christmas with Versa Mark ink and embossed that with gold embossing powder. Merry Christmas. I took those little star crystals from the kit and added those to the final points around my wreath. It kind of rounded it out very nicely, and those crystals actually reflect some blue in it, so that kind of pulls the blue in for that ribbon. A fun ornament wreath. Merry Christmas. I also wasn't quite sure what to do with this raccoon. He's all tangled up in a string of Christmas lights, and I thought about using him with the other animals when they were decorating the tree. I didn't have any other light strings. There were no other light strings in this kit. There wasn't any light strings for the tree. We had a couple of short little garland pieces over here, but no other lights or Christmas lights or strings of lights on anything but the raccoon. So what am I going to do? I'm going to feature the raccoon on a card. And this is for all my friends that get a little overwhelmed with the holidays. Hope your holidays are stress-free. Now, I pulled in a lot of those, what I'm calling filler stamps, to make this little vignette here. We've got our raccoon with the lights all over him. I've got the icicles above him. I sketched in some eaves at the top there just to give a ground for the icicles. He's actually wearing that little candle on his head. I think that's really hilarious. I did stamp one of the ornaments masking off half and masking off half so I could get a broken ornament at his feet. He's all wrapped up in the lights, and there's icicles threatening to fall on him. The candles on his head. He's not having a good time. I hope your holidays are stress-free. This little background and the craft mat are cut with my Gina K Designs single-stitched and double-stitched oval dies. I find those fairly easy to use and actually gives you a really nice mat. I printed this sentiment. This is in the typewriter hand font. Printed the sentiment directly on my card front. Mounted the ornaments and the raccoon with some foam tape to the ovals. This is a cute, fairly appropriate holiday card for lots of people I know. I couldn't help but feel like that raccoon was not very happy being all wrapped up in those lights. So here's to everyone I know. Here's hoping that your holidays are stress-free. It felt like to me that these three skaters were hobbyists and that this lady here was at least a competitive skater. So I thought we should save a card to highlight her and only her. So we've got another little scene here with just a single layer card and a nice pun. Winter is so much fun. Now, I did take a piece of my Bristol Smooth cardstock. I did cut a mask for our little competitive skater here and used one of my hillside tapes from the first card to ink blend the background. I used my Tim Holtz brushes, and this is faded jeans and cracked china and faded jeans. Really nice background there. I then printed the sentiment, winter is so much fun. This is in the Sign Painter font for winter and the Calibri font for Is Snow Much Fun. I was trying to imitate or at least emulate the stamps from the stamp set. Colored everything with my Zig Clean Color markers. I did try to go a little bit more ethnic with this young lady, so she has a little bit darker skin tone. I think that works very nicely. I did grab my Simon Says stamp Falling Snow stencil and used Versamark ink and some of the Hero Arts white puff embossing powder. We got that a couple of months ago to do the snow in the background. Really nice texture to that white puff. It came out okay. It's kind of a little big for this girl, I think. It's a little more like snowballs falling than snow falling, but it worked okay. I arranged that stencil so none of the snow was on our little skater here. I like the coloring here. I like her all in red. I was actually rooting around in my stash for something. I forget what I was looking for, and I came across this Flower Soft Polar White little, it's basically like shaved styrofoam. Polar White, I don't even know if they sell this stuff anymore. I'm sure somebody does. And I thought I'd add that around the pond and on the background to give a little texture to the snow. Kind of matches up with the snow falling in the sky. A really nice texture for a one-layer card. I think we can still call this a one-layer card, yes? I did cut out the Bristol Smooth cardstock with one of my Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies. I matted that down on the Twilight glitter paper. Kind of matched that faded jeans ink very nicely. It went very well with this. Glued that all down to my card front. This is basically, beyond a little texture, it's just a one-layer card. Winter is so much fun. Winter is so much fun. It's a great little pun. Makes me giggle. And I think this girl is going to win some awards. I must admit, when Hero Arts first debuted this card kit and showed us that layering tree die, I immediately thought of trying to light that. Now, I've been kind of lusting after those chibi light sets ever since they came out. I haven't ever bought any of them. I think they're kind of expensive. I did find this actual cheap little $10 chibi light set that actually has 3 lights, 1 battery, some copper tape, $10. I thought that was an inexpensive way to experiment with lighting up cards. So, For our next card, we've got 'Tis the Season with a little press down there, and our tree lights up. Wow. I just think that's kind of amazing. Oh my goodness, I adore this so much. Now, I die cut the tree and the frame out of a piece of 100-pound cardstock. I then took a little 1/4-inch hole punch and punched all these little holes in the branches, thinking that that would probably look like lights. I think they do look like lights. And I took that frame that I had and I lined the back of that with some vellum. And then I cut another frame of the tree and glued that together to the front piece. I did that so there's a double layer of cardstock all the way around the tree, and there's only a single layer of vellum in the center behind the cutout tree. I thought the vellum would help disperse the light, and I thought that the double layer of cardstock around it would help contain the light so the light doesn't really spill out past the tree. Worked very, very well. I'm very pleased with this. I did create this sentiment using my Silhouette software. This is with the Apple Chancery font. Of course, there is a little bit more to this card. We've got 'Tis the Season on the outside and Spruce It Up on the inside. Again, that is the same font. Printed that on the card base. Spruce It Up. There's a nice little pun for you. 'Tis the Season, a bright light up card. Now, like I said, I had been lusting after the chibi lights for a while, and I had done lots of research and read lots of things on it. So I did my circuits on a piece of cardstock that I sprayed down with the seafoam green glimmer mist that we got this summer from Hero Arts in one of our kits, the seafoam green. I thought that would possibly reflect some green towards us, and it does actually. You've got a nice bit of green shining through that tree since it's all white. So I did my circuits on that. I would go into how I did it here, but there are so many YouTubes out there that show how to wire these chibi lights, and of course there's instructions in any kit you get as well. I'm very pleased to say that I did manage to get this correct on my first try. I also knew that I wanted to use 2 lights behind this tree. I thought one light in the center wouldn't quite reach the edges, so I thought 2 lights in a row would light this up more completely. So one light takes 3 volts, and that's one of the button batteries. If you use 2 lights, you can use 2 batteries because they'll take 6 volts with no problem. So I doubled up the batteries here. This is actually 2 button batteries for this card. And I left the sides open to show you. So here's our little double battery compartment. I had to raise the front of the card quite a bit just to accommodate those 2 batteries stacked on top of each other. But there is an added bonus of if your front is far enough away from your back, the light will disperse even more instead of if your light's just right on top of your card front. You can see through the side, you can see the 2 lights right there. I think it's kind of fascinating to look at the inside of this, so I probably won't cover up the sides of this. This card front is trimmed down just 1/8 of an inch smaller than a normal card front, so you actually do get a little touch of that seafoam green around the edges. 'Tis the season. It's time to spruce it up. Nice pun. I really love that die. A really interesting first die like it that I have in my stash. Now, I had this one pun running through my head like from the very start of me working on these cards. On the craft card base this time, we've got a little vignette for you. For those that don't get it, although I think it is more than obvious, I did, of course, go ahead and print this pun on the inside. It just makes me laugh. Now, I actually masked off the top of the skaters and just stamped their skates, the little boy and girl that were facing each other, masked off their whole bodies and just stamped their skates. Then I masked the skates and stamped the pond around them. Of course, then went in and drew my little ice cubes, just free-handed those. I drew those with my Pigma Micron 02 pen. I did go in and use my colored pencils to color this. I went on a craft card base because I wanted to be able to achieve a little bit of translucency through these ice cubes. You can actually see a little bit of that brown through these ice cubes. If I had done this on a white card base, you wouldn't have gotten any real translucency, but I think you can almost see through those ice cubes. Very silly. I did, of course, go into that glimmer. You almost can't tell it here, but I used that iridescent watercolor ink to go over the top of those ice cubes. I did die cut this craft vignette with my stitched rectangle die, gave it a very thin black mat, and then matted that on a larger piece of that silver glitter cardstock from the kit, matted to a plain craft card base. Ice skating. That's what we're doing. That's what it's all about. I like my ice cubes. I think they're pretty decent. Now, there's a couple more sentiments that I haven't used, and I haven't used the little boy on the sled yet. So for our final card this month, we got, yes, another interactive card. Let It Snow. And of course, there's a little pull tab behind our sledding boy. Oh, what fun. Oh my goodness, I love this card. Let It Snow. Now, this is basically the double slider surprise card that I have a whole video on these. I did do a couple of things different this time. I actually took one of my stitched hillside dies and cut that into a card front without cutting the ends. I actually, inside, this is all one card front. I cut it with my stitched rectangle die and then just masked off the bottom and ink blended the top. That again is the Faded Jeans and Broken China Distress Oxide ink. I actually reached for my Simon Says stamp Falling Backgrounds stamp. I think I used the hearts in the coffee kit that we got a couple months ago. Here's the snow one. Came out really, really nice. I, of course, did practice that snow stamp before I brought it to my card. I stamped that in the Versamark ink and did emboss that with that Hero Arts White Puff embossing powder. Great texture. Now, this is the exact same mechanics as the double slider dies. There's a channel in the back here with a plastic bag wrapped around it. Your pull tab is attached to the back of that plastic bag. Your sled is attached to the front of that plastic bag. Now for this, I used a piece of acetate glued to the back of his head. That acetate goes all the way behind him to the plastic bag conveyor belt and attaches to that. So the slit is actually where the hillside is, and that piece of acetate is all that's riding between that slit. So it's really functional. It works so well. Oh my goodness. I love this card. Oh, what fun, of course, stamped on the pull tab. Everything stamped, of course, in Onyx Black ink, colored with my Zig Clean color markers. I did stamp that small snowflake in the Summer Sky Hero Arts ink and put one little gem right there in the middle of it. Just one clear little gem from my stash. Let it snow. This fella is just flying right off this hill. Oh, a great, fun, interactive card. Now, there is a link on my website that will take you to the web posting and the video that describes this technique. It's really very simple. You can adapt it into so many different uses. So that's my 10 cards for the My Monthly Hero October 2018 card kit. I had a delightful time working on these cards. I hope you have enjoyed them as well. I hope I was able to provide you a little bit of inspiration and a grin and a giggle or two. Now, Hero Arts just announced yesterday that this kit is back in stock and still available. So if you'd like to get in on some of that wintertime fun, it is already sold out once. So if you want to grab one, get it quick. Thanks so much for sharing your time with me today. You know, it means a lot to me. Please like me, list me, pin me, post me, share me with all of your friends. Remember, don't run with ice skates. And by all means, happy crafting. If you'd like more detailed information, better pictures, and product links, please visit my website at CardCutups.com.